Yo, welcome to the Swagu podcast. Listen, I ain't gonna lie, y'all, this personal for me. I've been a fan of Rich Kleiman for a long time. I've been a fan of him from afar. This is actually my first time getting the chance to chop it up with him and pick his brain, go into his world a little bit. I hope all you guys can pull something from it. He is phenomenal in a lot of different aspects, but the thing that I respect the most feels like the brother is a homie. It feels like he's down to earth. Every time I see him talk with all of the success that he's had, it feels real personable. Rich helped launch and was the VP of Rock Nation Sports, working with athletes. KD, that's his main man. We got more on that. Skylar Diggins Smith, CC Sabathia. So covering a gambit. Victor Cruz, former salsa and cha-cha with the New York Giants. Some of his clients, a music executive as well, co-founder of Alito
Yep.
Records, along with DJ Mark Ronson. It's just a plethora of things, but this is what I wanted to get to. 35 Ventures Investments. It's a partnership between Rich and KD, owning a lot, as you all can see where this going. Owning and having a lot of stake into different mediums. And this is why I'm so intrigued to talk to you. 35 Ventures. Let me tell them what it is, Rich, before we get into it. The beautiful thing that I think a lot of people will resonate with is Boardroom. It's the 35 Ventures flagship program. It's a media company, Academy Award-winning film, Two Distant Strangers, Apple TV plus the show Swagger. I know if you're a hooper or you got hoopers in your family or you got kids that's hoopers, Swagger is one you need to tap into. Documentaries focused on the upbringing of basketball stars in New York. A kid from Coney Island, Stephon Marbury. If you don't know him, don't watch my podcast no more. NYC point guards. And my favorite is In the Water. The stars of PG County. Rich, I played. We're gonna get to it. I'm excited about this PG County one. I'm excited because I'm gonna blow your mind with this. But first of all, man, welcome. I wanted to read that off. Rich, I think it's important for people to know the impact you have in this media and sports space. I think it's important for people to know that you are truly someone that has the athlete back, as we can see the relationships and the trust that you've built over a long time. My first question is, how do you cultivate relationships, Rich? I know everybody talks about it and see you at this level of success that you are now, but I know that it's been a long journey and a lot of hard work. Teach me and some people that are trying to learn this. How did you cultivate the relationships to get to the point where you are right now?
Well, first of all, thank you for the introduction and all the kind words. I'm also a fan of yours and excited to be here.
Thank you, man.
And I appreciate the first question because I do think that if there was one thing that I am most proud of, it's the kind of inventory of relationships that I've been able to build up over the course of my career and in a lot of ways, the course of my life. You know, I think like I didn't do great in school as a kid. I wasn't focused. Sometimes when things are a bit chaotic around you at home, it's really tough to find the discipline at school to understand why it's important, right? You can't kind of see into the future. But what I did realize that was when I was around people, I felt good. When I felt validation from meeting new people and from learning about new people, that inspired me always. And then, you know, as I started to get older and older, I didn't necessarily know what I wanted to do professionally. But what I did know was that I was around people, I was happy, I was creative. And when I looked at my relationships, they weren't transactional. They were real relationships. And I asked people about themselves. I wanted to understand who people were. And I was trying to learn and gain as much information as I could that I felt like I probably wasn't getting from my education. And, you know, growing up in New York, you're exposed to some of the most creative and diverse minds. And I took advantage of that. And it's work. It's work to be in a relationship. And I think sometimes people feel like once they connect with somebody that the relationship, especially in the business world, should then become transactional. And for me, it's really never that. You know, I think what I realize is that just like anything in life, you have to really you have to build, you have to get to know
Yeah.
one another, you have to hone that relationship. And I think that when I got later into my career, I realized the value of all the people that I had met throughout my life, and that people understood that the friendship was real. So then when you do need something and you do want to expand into a world that maybe you don't have as much access or information in, now you have these trusted relationships around you that you can pull from. And I still do it to this day, and I still find the greatest joy when I'm out, whether it's a
Yeah.
work event or a sporting event or something with my kids, that I'm meeting new people. I really look at it as continuing to build from the people that I meet.
Man, that's one thing to a man or a woman that I get when I interact with people that have met you, talked to you, or had spent a little time with you is, man, Rich is down to earth. And I wanted, I reached out to you through IG, and I was like, yo, I got to have you on, man. And like I said, I've been a big fan for a long time. You referenced cultivating those relationships and taking the time to build, and potentially in that building and in that cultivating, it becomes transactional. But nothing you do, Rich, feels transactional. Even though we know you doing business to a very high level, when you sit either with partners like KD, or you sit with people, or you in rooms with people, the things that I've heard and the things that I've been able to see is that it feels real genuine. The relationship does, and I think that gives off an aura. How important is it though for what you've learned throughout this process for you to teach to people that's coming into your circle or your net, that's either new or people you've been working with, as you learn new things and go to different levels?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's it's important for me to, in my opinion, be communicative and honest and open, and to share my experiences. I'm always a bit reluctant to frame it in the form of teaching, because as
Mm.
somebody that still is so young at heart and in my mind, young spirited, and we all are, I know the reality of the experience that I have. I know the reality of being 47 and that I've been in this business for 27 years. So
Mhm.
I do have a lot to pull from. But what I'm always thoughtful of and sensitive to is my experiences are mine,
Yeah.
and they cannot be perfectly related to by somebody else. But what they can be is something for them to pull from it and use as an example. So when I see certain things that people do in business, or I hear about certain people's lives, I never want to tell them like, oh, I know exactly how you feel, or that's the same thing I'm going through, because it's not. I remember as a kid when I would talk to friends of mine and tell them what was going on in my house, and someone would be like, man, that's the same with my mom. And I'd be like,
Mm.
no, it's not,
No,
man.
it's
It's
not.
not.
Yeah.
It's not. So if you really just listen to people and tell people your experience and just leave it at that, they're going to find something that they can relate to in it. And that's going to
Yeah.
help educate them. And if that's teaching, then I'm comfortable with that, because one thing that I'm not afraid to be is just brutally honest. And sometimes I think the brutal honesty is surprising to people, so much so that they don't even know that you are being honest. They actually look at you like you may be storytelling, or look at you like
Right.
you may be trying to flex or posture. But for me, it's like, if I'm going to connect with somebody, I really don't love small talk. I'll have it for a second, but I'm quickly about to go somewhere deep in a conversation. And if I feel like somebody doesn't want to get to that level, then they're probably not going to be the right relationship for me to build.
Yeah.
But when I start talking honestly, I notice that a good portion of the time people want to go there and they want to have a real conversation, and they want to get uncomfortable a bit in their thoughts. And then what I realize is that once you do that, no matter how much time you've spent with someone, that is the true way to form a close relationship.
Yeah.
It's not how much time you spend in front of them, or how much you have to show to them that you're important in a certain world or a certain place. It's how honest you can be and how much you can really connect at that time. And that to me has been my gift in forming these relationships. So
Mhm.
somebody may say when you talk to them about me that like they feel like it's genuine, and it is. It truly is
Yeah.
genuine, because I'm not going to waste my time with a conversation if I don't feel like I'm being genuine with them. So,
Right.
I appreciate hearing that, because I think to me that's in a lot of ways informed the way I've tried to build our business. And I think for people that know KD, and it may be harder for them to believe this because they get to see KD so much publicly, he's very, very similar in that way.
Yep.
He's not as maybe extroverted as I am, but he's very, very similar in how he values relationships. And that's why we've been able to build our company at our pace,
Mm-hmm.
in our way. And at times that meant compromising money, but it was not ever compromising what it is that brought us good energy or we felt a good spirit about.
Yeah. See, I relate to that, man. I know you said that you were familiar. I just believe, Rich, the foundation for me is fun and making sure people know they're important. Um, and I think a lot of times, like you said, through those deep relationships, a person can really get to understand that you actually interested in what they have to say. I'm not a small talk person either. So I 100% understand what you're saying when it comes to that, because I am trying to get to some depth because I don't have time. Those are words that I hear you continuously say, time, which is very valuable, obviously, to get the things that you and your partners and teams have been able to accomplish. The other thing is authentic, is real. These characteristics, the making sure your time is valued, the authenticity of it, the relationship part of it. Do you think that is like the nucleus of your success along with the people that you've worked with? Are those the characteristics of the things that would represent your relationships if somebody was able to look into them?
Yeah, I think that is a big part of it for sure. I think what I've done concurrently in building these relationships is, while I'm not trying to transact ever off of them, I'm watching and observing everything. And I'm always taking inspiration from the rooms I'm in. And sometimes it's what I don't want to be like or what I don't want to do. I've heard people speak or how people move, and I go, man, if I look like that, I need to figure out how to kind of refocus the way I
Reset it.
present myself. Or if I hear somebody say something or a certain way somebody walks into the room, and I say, man, that's exactly the confidence I want to walk in a room with. I hope people see me like that. I am paying attention to it. To me, that's how I educate myself and how I learn and how I become more successful, because this so much of the game in our business is presentation, and it's the
Absolutely.
relationships like we talked about, but it's presentation. And I think that when people ask me if I had a mentor or if people mentored me, there are some people that I think gave me chances. Chances is probably a little bit different than mentoring, because sometimes a chance is really all someone has the capability of giving you.
Yeah.
And if they give you the opportunity, but they don't sit there and give you the lesson, well, that's fine, right? They gave you the opportunity.
Opportunity.
But some people have given me lessons without even knowing it. So much so that they may have not wanted to give me a lesson. They may have thought to themselves, I'm not trying to give Rich any game, but I'm watching and I'm getting game from it. So when you ask me if I have a mentor, like, I'll answer it one of two ways. I have these people that have opened doors for me, and there's no way to deny that, whether that's KD or whether that's Mark Ronson or Jay-Z or this guy John Kamen when I was younger at Radical Media, or friends of mine that had a little bit more and just let you in a little bit. All those people to me gave me chances. My mentors have been people that I've watched. My mentors are just people that I've studied and that have helped kind of inform the way that I move. But I've never had somebody put their arm around me and say, son, this is the game, and let me draw this for you. I've just never had that. And I think sometimes when you have a certain level of confidence, which as a professional athlete you have to have,
Yep.
and in an unconventional route that I've taken in my life, you have to have had, because if I didn't have that, plus everything else that I kind of created as a headwind for myself, I wouldn't have been able to probably get out of my own way. But that to me is what the driving force is for it. When you're that confident, sometimes you'll never get that person that goes, yo, let me tell you
Let
let
me
me
tell
tell you
you.
what it is,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that, man. So you have all of these things that you've accomplished, and I'm sure that it's like myself, my family gets on me all the time, Rich, about like, hey man, stop and celebrate some of the stuff that you've been able to accomplish. And in my mind, I'm like, that was just a part of the journey that I'm on. but I don't know the end game to the journey, right? Like a question I think a lot of people that's trying to accomplish a lot. What is happiness? What is this ultimate thing that you working towards? I don't want you to define that, but one, do you have opportunities to celebrate the wins that you have? And then two, like, do you ever think about where this is all going?
Well, it's a good question because I was trying to figure out on a day that I was feeling negative about the trajectory of my business, not because anything actually happened, but because a lot of times when things are moving really fast, and then there's a few days where or a week where something feels like it's just kind of gliding, right? I think the gliding is important, but sometimes when it's gliding, because I had just come off of moving really fast, I'm like, wait, hold up. Like,
Yeah.
did everything stop? And then you got to look around and go, no, hold up. Like, if I just kept going fast, I was going to run out of steam. So the gliding is actually important. But then I have to do an inventory all the time. I have to do an inventory to kind of like be my own boxing trainer in the corner and remind myself some of the things that I've been able to do, or allow myself to place what I'm working on and how it's important or why it's important to the people that are around it, or to the people that work with me, or to myself. Because I think what's really messing a lot of people up is two things. It's impossible to truly gauge your own success if you're going to base it around money or you're going to base it around social media. And if you base it around those two things, you'll never be satisfied, because somebody's always going to have more money and somebody's always going to have a bigger audience. But what you have to try to realize is that is not what impact comes from. Impact comes from the conversation we're having right now. You saying to me that people say this about me and how genuine they think I am. So if I can take that and really register that, that becomes something else that I'll remind myself. It'll be part of my inventory check when I'm feeling like, is this thing slowing down, or is what I'm
Mhm.
working on not important? Nah, you know what it is? You may have more money than me, but people don't think you're genuine and they don't you. And you
Yep.
may have a bigger audience, but they don't talk about you. They may like your photos, but they don't talk about you. So when I can comprehend that, then all of a sudden I give myself this boost again, and I
Yeah.
start going, all right, now you're doing the right thing. But as you get older, especially if you're self-aware, and I'm super self-aware, you can't deny the realities. It's like, you know how long you live in this world, more or
Yep.
less, God willing. You know that there was people before you that were super, super successful and famous. And then when time goes on, it just goes on. So then
Yep.
you start to think about like, okay, so then what am I doing? Well, you want to make sure your kids are good, both monetarily, that they're happy. You want to make sure that your kids feel purpose. As long as you can spread that on as many generations as possible. So that's a
Mhm.
win. You want to make sure that you're healthy, and you want to make sure that what you're working on, whoever it means something to, no matter what it is, whether you're a teacher, whether you're running a nonprofit, whether you decided to build a sports media business, that for me, what's important is how long can I make this sustain? How long can this stay in the zeitgeist? Because out like all that's all you got, right? That's all
All
you
you
got.
got. Yep.
So for me, it's, the way that I kind of start to gauge it now is I give myself this like motivation talk where I'm like, yo, these are the things you've done. This is the stuff you still have to do in front of you. All right, check back in. You're good. And then you
That's
start
love.
pedaling fast again. And that's kind of like this new way that I've approached it. Because it used to be thinking it was superficial things, or it used to be thinking like, oh, yo, everybody knows you in the party. Well, that's been
Yeah.
going on for a long time because I grew up in New York. I was in the party before I had. So
Yeah.
now that I'm like, all right, I can get into the party. What's important now? These are the things that are making me like inspired.
Rich, you hear it all the time, bro. And I love what you just said because I'm big on impact and purpose. And what you just talked about was like those things defined by how you look at them. I think a lot of people can resonate when they're doing it for the right reasons. Speaking of impact though and purpose, you've transitioned from music and now you in sports music, you in entertainment medium. When you have these opportunities and ideas to launch and think about things, and introduce or produce something to the world that you think is going to make an impact, how important is the narratives of your storytelling along with KD? What type of impact are you all trying to make by putting this stuff out into the medium, into the world?
Well, I mean, I think like, the early days of my career was managing artists and DJs and producers, and then you're able to kind of flex your creative chops within each person that you work with. So if I'm working with an artist that wants to go on tour, I'm understanding the touring business. If I'm working with an artist who's making his album, I'm in the studio with them. If I'm working with a DJ that's in the clubs every night and he's getting residencies in Vegas and doing parties around the world, now I'm seeing what the rest of the world is like and I'm seeing what they want in the club. If you work with an athlete, they want to build their media brand, or they want to start investing, or they want to talk and tap into their audience. But at the end of the day, what I really realized was that I was very good at managing creative, talented people with incredible drive and focus and work ethic. And I can help bring that to life. When KD and I, though, started working even closer together and decided to start to build a business, what I realized was that my experiences to that point and Kevin's experiences to that point, while totally different in every shape and form, was similar in that we kind of valued and appreciated the space that we were operating in and the differences of the people in these spaces and the uniqueness of the people that we were meeting. So what shaped Boardroom and what shaped the idea to kind of build that as the centerpiece of our business was that there was this world where the most compelling and unique and interesting people, and this intersection where all these things that we love, driven by sports in so many ways, had become such a big and powerful conversation. So all we wanted to do was to sit adjacent to that and storytell and amplify that world that we were fortunate enough to live in. So the further and further we started going and developing Boardroom, what I realized was not only were Kevin and I living in it, but humbly speaking, we were embodying it as much as anybody. I had grown up in this business in so many different roles. It was almost like I was a 12th man on the team. I was the third person off the bench. I was the sixth man. Then I got in the starting lineup. Now all of a sudden I might have made an all-star game. And KD was one of the greatest players of his generation and beyond, and had grown up and had to encounter all these different things that were thrown at him, some because of decisions he made, some because of the nature of the world he was in.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden we sat there and said, we're not just storytelling about this world that we see, that we're motivated and inspired to be around. We're representative of as much as anybody. And then that really gave us the freedom to be a bit bolder in building what Boardroom was, and to be a bit more upfront about who we both were as it related to the business we were building.
Yeah, I love the origin stories that you guys have put out on Boardroom, because they very relatable. Especially, Rich, I hooped and I was in the basketball culture heavy. I know y'all did in the water, PG County. Actually, when I was young, bro, my uncle used to take me out there to run and shoot and play in PG County. It was my first experience with like grimy hooping. And so when I watched that, I was like, yo, this has been a hotbed for a long time. But obviously KD took that to another level, becoming an icon. What everybody knows is well documented that you and KD are close. And Rich, I've watched a lot of interviews you've done. I've watched interviews that KD has done. What is y'all relationship? Like, how would you explain it? We always try to like describe, we brothers, we partners that became family. If I'm asking like Rich and KD separately, what the relationship is, are there things that you would say very similar? What is the KD Rich Kleiman relationship?
Yeah, I think the best word would be partner, because partner means that this is a like collaborative relationship, one that needs to be respected, one that means that we each come into this relationship with a different personality, different set of experiences, different background, different needs, different roles. But a perfect partnership is like this, right?
Yeah.
Where, okay, there's a lot of the time where I turn my hat backwards and I'm his manager. And that means if he says, "Hey yo, I need this," or "Please send this," I have no problem wearing that hat proudly, because that's the core of how this relationship started. But over time, what's happened is I can turn the hat to the front and Kevin goes, "Holy shit, like Rich turned into one and we built something special." And there's times where I say, "Yo, I'm going to need this from you, bro, because we're building this." And the respect that we have for one another and the understanding of the space that each of us need, and respecting that, is just a beautiful partnership. You know, you look at like Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and
Yep.
you know, if you saw the show Defiant Ones, I think there's I'm not I mean, I'd be remiss to compare ourselves. I'm not in any way doing that yet. But what I will say is that, like,
Yeah.
what was beautiful about their partnership was this, like, respect that they each had for the roles that they each play in each other's lives. And then when you have a great partnership, you either benefit from starting to love the family around them, and the friends around them, and then that becomes like family, and like you
Yep.
said, like a brother. But the thing is, people throw that word around all the time. I mean, I do too. Everybody does. So if I really were to ever think about like what really defines our relationship, is we're partners. Like, we
Yeah.
truly are partners in this world, in this space. And we attack the business world. We attack what we try to do philanthropically. We're there as friends, but that came from this partnership, and that came from us really respecting one another and trusting one another. And I'm sure you know this. Like, this is as cliche as it gets, but like, trust comes in all these different degrees. Like, there's no way you could define trust by like, I trust you, I don't trust you. That's why
Right.
people say to people, "Hey, yo, don't tell anybody I told you this." And I'm sitting there
Yeah.
thinking, you don't even know me.
You don't know
Why
me.
would you
Yep.
ever tell me something and not to tell anybody else? So I know that when someone says that to me, that probably means they got about 100 people they told. Then if somebody
Absolutely.
really, really close to me tells me, "Man, I'm just telling you this, don't tell anybody," I'm thinking, all right, well, you definitely told your wife. You probably told 5 or 6 other people as well. And you probably have 3 or 4 other people that you may have taken a few too many drinks and told them too. So I'm one of
Absolutely.
10. So now I know if this shit gets out, you know that I'm not the one that said anything. But then there's certain people that you know for a fact, you don't even actually have to say, "Don't tell anyone this."
You just
You
tell them.
just tell them. And that
Yeah.
relationship is so few and far between. And that's really like the core of what goes on with Kevin and I. Is there's nothing he could tell me that I'm going to offer up to anyone else ever, no matter what, and vice versa. So I think like that's really at the end of the day, what this relationship is we're a true partnership.
Rich, I was explaining that to somebody a couple of days ago. I said, man, partnership sometimes becomes stronger than what you would call your pseudo brother, or friend, because one, both of you are involved in this thing that has the ability to put you in harm's way together. So that's a difference. Like, I'm a big what's at stake person, right? Like, I'm a big, like, I if I'm gonna do business with you, you gotta have something in the game with me. If we gonna go and decide to try to develop this idea like you and Katie have had, I'm always full transparency, but also we don't have to tell the world what we cooking up. I think that's what I too, Rich, I see you, man, and I see you talk on business networks. I see you talk obviously in the sports medium, in the media medium. People ask you, like myself, to come on podcasts and all of that. And I think a lot of times you get interviews so people can draw and pull from you. I'm always invested. Like, I'm always invested in your train of thought, how you waking up and approaching the day, because all of the things that you've been able to accomplish are not by happenstance, right? So where does your where does your entrepreneurial spirit come from beyond your childhood? And when you out in these arenas, and whether you selling or whether you collaborating or whether you partnering with somebody, what are those things initially that must check boxes for you to know that you are going to go forward with either ideal or dealing with new partnerships?
I that's a really great question, actually. It's changed a bit. I think when I was younger, and I think this probably goes for any young man or woman in has an entrepreneurial mindset is like when I come up with an idea in my head or I think of something I want to do, for a quick second, when I think of it, I'm like, this is incredible, right? Like you're starting to hear your own idea in your head and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. So there were some times where I would feel that way. And then the next morning I'd be like, oh my God, why did I even tell
That shit
so and
was
so that
horrible.
it sounds horrible? It doesn't even make sense, not even possible. So what I realized was like, what an incredible way to test that idea in your mind by giving it a lot of airtime, right? And not being embarrassed or shy about somebody saying that sounds crazy or
Right.
somebody taking your idea, whatever that means. I used to really think about like that, but like none of us are coming up with the equation for life. So what we're coming up with is our version of whatever it is we want to do. So
Yeah.
I took so much inspiration from other people in the business we've built, but you could never say that what I've done is completely the same as what somebody else has done. So I stopped worrying about that. So now what I do is I almost like have my own focus groups in real life where I'll be like, hey, Swagu, let me ask you a question. I'm thinking if I launch this thing and it's going to look like this, and you're sitting there like, bro, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Or you may say, now that's dope, but I can read between the lines and be like, man, he ain't
Yeah.
feeling this. He ain't feeling this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just do that now a bit because once I've given it enough space and I've talked about it a bit, that like idea of bringing something to life to make it real, I think is really important. When I was a kid, if I had a business idea, I'm not saying that this is the method that one should go about it. I would quickly formalize it by like running to the store and getting a notebook, writing the idea at the top of the notebook, and just kind of like holding that for the rest of the day. Or when I got a little older, if I wanted to open a restaurant or a bar, I had this concept. I'd be like, yo, I'm gonna make t-shirts. And by Saturday, I was handing out t-shirts to a few of my friends. And then by Monday, I was like, man, throw them out. I don't think I want to do that anymore. But I needed to formalize the idea in some way for me to feel like it was real. So
Yeah.
what I like to do that now through is like people that I can have access to. And it doesn't have to be people that are super successful. It could be whoever it is, just to read the reaction. And then all of a sudden, if I feel really good about it, I'll start to put some things in motion.
Dude, it's amazing listening to you because you can see. And I think a lot of times, man, like when we have an opportunity to sit on the other side and interview guys like yourself or interview a KD, we always like I try not to get enamored with what's been accomplished, and I always try to get the thought process about what you were doing while you were accomplishing these things that the outside world see as like huge and big. That's always a standard for me. You mentioned and we talked about it. You have this beautiful intertwine of music, entertainment, and sports. What has been your favorite one to work in? Um, and what's the most challenging arena out of music, the entertainment? Obviously music and entertainment can go together, but you have done film, you have done long form series, and then the sports portion of it as far as your relationship with KD, being a manager, being an agent, like you said, whatever hats. What has been the most difficult one out of the three?
The music business was the most difficult for me by far because when I was working in music, I didn't have the same confidence that I have now. And I think I did some good work and I was able to manage and connect with some incredible artists. I think the reason why I was able to work with incredible people was because my personal skill set was there, how I interacted with people, how I led with empathy, which is really important with talent, artists especially, because if you're not listening and you're not really hearing and acknowledging some of the things that they're feeling, you can't have a successful relationship in that way.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily move at the speed that I wanted to back then. And in hindsight, I think the reason was because I didn't I didn't initiate or put into motion what I knew was right all the time. And I didn't go with my gut. And in music, especially because it's so subjective, I didn't ever like put my flag in the ground, say, nah, this ain't gonna work. Like
Yeah.
really, really, really adamantly put my flag in the ground and stop something from happening that I saw was going off the tracks, or enforce an idea that I knew was 100% right because I just didn't have the same confidence. I might have helped guide it that way. I may have made sure if something fell off the tracks, it didn't fall off too far, or I might have been the first person to save you. But what I didn't do was like step up all the time with my chest out and command a certain feeling that I had. And I hated that because not only was I not doing it, I knew I wasn't doing it. And I
Mm.
knew that in certain areas of my life, I was like that. And I couldn't figure out why I could not overcome that within my work world at that point. And sometimes it has to do with outside influences or
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that are happening, or just age and just experience.
Right.
But if I could
Did
turn back time,
Rich, did you feel like you didn't have enough cachet or voice during that particular time with the people that you were around? Did you feel like almost subordinate to whoever else was in that area, or you just was like, maybe I don't need to say this because it may change a relationship? What was your like? Why didn't you feel like you could put that forward?
it probably is a little bit of that, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about like how one would define success for themselves. And even though it was relative to a different time in my life, it was just believing that the things that made you successful or that allowed people to see you as successful, I thought were counted on a different scoreboard. It was like, well, hold up, I don't have this and I don't have this. What I didn't realize was like what I actually was doing. So like I
Yeah.
was where I was. I was working with Jay-Z. I did produce his film. I was sitting at the Grammys with Mark Ronson and Amy Winehouse. I was managing Meek Mill and Wale and Solange and in the studio with J. Cole while he was making his first album. If I tell someone that now, they're like, God damn.
You
But
was
I
the
didn't feel
guy.
that way. I didn't feel that way back then. So I'm thinking to myself now, like a lot of times, like, you know, I just spoke to Cole last week for an hour and a half. We hadn't spoken in a few months. And the level of our conversation was so incredible, the depth that we were going to in this
Mhm.
conversation. And I'm thinking to myself, like, there was a version of this in me when I was in the studio with him 15 years ago, but I wouldn't have probably gone there. I wouldn't have gone all
Yeah.
the way there. I would have been funny. I would have said, yo, this is the club that's popping tonight. I would have said, let me hook you up with him or her. But I wouldn't have said, like, this is what I'm on right now. This is what I'm feeling. And when you see some of these incredibly successful entrepreneurs that at 20 years old have the gall, 25 years old,
Yeah.
gall to walk into these rooms. That's very impressive, but that's
Mm.
very, very rare. That's
Right.
very rare. So for me, when I say I feel young minded now, it's because I feel like I have that same energy that I had back then, except now I finally have that feeling of like, I'm going to say whatever.
Whatever.
And I believe what I feel now. And God
Yeah.
damn, I wish I had that always, but I'm happy I have it now. So that's what made the music industry tougher for me back then.
Nah, man, I understand that because I think the course that you go on, we all you know this being around sports, like you got to earn the right to say whatever you want to say. And I think we all kind of carry that approach. When I first got to ESPN, it was the same way. Like I started at a under the umbrella company SEC Network, which was phenomenal, but the things that I said and did were what I do now. It was just on like five. Now I'm on 25
Yeah.
because that confidence that you walk in with, but it's also Rich because of the work that you put in. Like the work you put in gives you a different type of confidence because then like I have these tangible things. Like when I read off this sheet, the things that you've done, regardless of if we want to acknowledge it or not, we got these tangible things that tells you why we are what we are now, right? Before we ever produced anything. And I look at guys like you who one can be a chameleon, right? Because you talk about the music industry being the most difficult. You in the sports world, you in the entertainment world, you meeting with a different host of people, diverse groups, and you able to still maintain Rich Kleiman, and which I've always admired that because I'm not this like caught up by superstar guys, right? Like if you invited me to a party, Rich, and I was tired as hell, I'd be like, Rich, I gotta come to the next one, bro. Like, I love you. Can we get some dinner? Like, I want to link up with you, but so that's my mentality. I get that from you, and I understand like how you've been moving in this circle. I gotta get to some sports stuff though, because when we came on, you was pissed off about my we let everybody know. Rich don't like my Dallas Cowboy helmet. You about to find out why. But we gonna talk NBA first because the season is about to jump off, and obviously, KD getting back. What is this for KD? 16?
No, it's actually year 18, but the NBA
18
counts. Yeah, the NBA counts it as year 17 because of the 1 year he missed with the Achilles.
with the Achilles. Jesus, man. Funniest, real quick story, Rich, before we get into it. So my son, I lived in Virginia, and my son played for Team Durant, played for KD's uh Nike. He was young, but he played for his Nike team. And when he made the team, my son Marcus Jr., bro, he the number 20th ranked freshman in the country in basketball. He's 6'8" lefty.
Okay.
And rivals got him number 9. He got some offers, but he might have a shot. But KD is his favorite player. And we were in I live in Dallas, and we went to see the Mavs and the Suns play, but I took him like 2 hours early to see KD warm up because I want him to see how a pro conducts himself, how they play a game before the game is actually
Yep.
played. And he was like, Dad, that's dope, man. Like, I'm thank you for bringing me. But he was also like, man, look at all the people on the floor with KD as he works out. And why I'm bringing this up, Rich, is because the team, right? Like the team, who who do you draw energy from? I know family, but then you have these business relationships. You got KD. Does KD inspire you? Do you draw energy from him? Who are some of those individuals that kind of
Yeah.
feed you?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, I definitely, obviously, yes, KD in a few ways. And not just Kevin in this instance. It's all professional athletes. I don't think people can fully understand the amount of work that you guys put in to your craft. It still amazes me to this day because there's nothing, no matter the weather, no matter the circumstance, that can keep you guys from continuing day after day since the time you were a little kid, even when you get to where you want to be, just as much effort and focus put into, I have to continue to master my craft. So being able to be around so many professional athletes has been not only like a gift from a business standpoint as a fan, but in terms of inspiring me to realize that like you have to do the work.
Yeah,
Nothing will ever get in the way of the work. So many young people will ask you like, what's the trick? What's the gift? And I'll give advice, and then sometimes I'll say, but you have to understand, you gotta do it though.
got to
Like
do
you
it.
have to actually do the work. You cannot skip the work. So there's that. Number two would be like my peers. I think I look at a lot of my peers and I see it almost as like one of those old video games where like we're all racing. And then sometimes there's nothing malicious about it. It's not negative. It's not competition with each other. It's just the race.
The
And
race. Yep.
everyone's going. And if I see somebody up here, it's like if you were biking with your crew. And if you're biking with your crew and you're going around the neighborhood, there's nowhere you're going. Actually, you guys may stop at the store. You may
Yep.
go drive by this girl's house. You may drive by this monument or this park, but you're all going there at the end of the day. But sometimes you say, "Hey, yo, they're all up there, and you're back here. You got to go pedal faster." And for me,
Yeah.
I just look at everybody around me and go, "Oh man, that's a hell of a move right there. What an
Mm.
incredible partnership." What an incredible move. And I used to feel a little more competitive. And now I'm just honestly motivated by it. Like I absolutely love reading about successes of all my peers, of athletes that have made these incredible careers off the field. which at the end of the day is all that Boardroom is, really, is me
Yes,
storytelling about everybody else's successes and their partnerships and their wins and the new endeavors they're embarking on, because that motivates me. It really does motivate
absolutely.
me.
Absolutely. Do you and KD have a shift when he's getting back into the season? Is there like a because you constantly doing business and I know you out and you on your hustle. Is it like, all right, Rich, I'm finna lock in for the season? You because of that trust y'all have built, the things that we got on the docket or the things that we got rolling, you got to go handle this now because I'm in the gym and I'm giving all of that time. How does that dynamic work when he gets back into the season?
Yeah, it's not. I think earlier on in our career, there was a little bit more of like, it's playoff mode. We're back in the season. It's the off season. Everything is a bit more fluid, but I think there's like this dance that happens where like I just know, right? So like I even know this morning when I was texting with him, I had two things to follow up with him on. He wrote me something that he needed. The last preseason game was last night. The season starts
Yep.
Tuesday. I know what he has to do later today. And in July, I'm just inundating him with what I needed to ask him. Today, I was like, you know what? In my mind, I'm like, let me wait till the next call. Like, we'll pace this one out. It's
Yeah.
6 o'clock in the morning in Phoenix. So he just asked me something, probably means he just woke up, thought about it, still needs to get some rest because they played last night. Let me just fall back. But if it was pressing, I would follow up with it. It's not this
Okay.
line in the sand like it used to be.
Hmm.
But when he won his first championship, I was in the locker room and he dapped me up and said, like, now you got to go even harder. And I was going to anyway. But what I will say about what I felt when he said that was it cemented in my mind that he saw this how it works, that he really saw that like the more successful he is and the more he's locked in on his craft, the more this can rise.
Live.
So
Yeah.
I have to honor that space first and foremost all the time.
Man, it is it's amazing listening to you because that relationship facilitates, like um I have a one of my partners, Jamar, who is my guy, and we are very similar in that regard. Like he know when football, even when I was playing, but now like football season start, if I'm short, it ain't disrespect. It's like, no, I'm grinding. So it makes a lot of sense to me, man. Rich, it's been I got in this business and I obviously playing for the Dallas Cowboys and never in a million years, brother, thought that TV would take me to where I am right now. Like it just wasn't something I planned for. I wanted to do it because I enjoy it and I have a lot of fun doing it, as you can tell. But I'm ending up in this place where it's like, damn, 11 years in, like you look back, and I know a lot of people, well, I look back and I'm like, damn, how did I get here? Do you ever take a minute, man? Do you ever take a minute to think about where you came from and where you are today and where you're trying to go? Does it ever like sit you down and you have to kind of think about that and be appreciative?
I'm appreciative for sure of the people that have allowed me to work with them. Honestly, like I truly see it as such. Like I see the opportunities I've gotten, and I'm appreciative of it. I've just started looking back and laughing and enjoying certain times or memories in my life that I think that I shelved away and moved on from. And when I moved on from them, I just decided to like put it over there for a while.
Right.
And just recently, when I've become way more comfortable with everything that is just what it is, I've started thinking about those times and started thinking about certain things that I thought were bad parts of my life or negative times of my life and really enjoying all of them and what kind of got me here. Um, like I saw Meek at one of Michael Rubin's Fanatics Sotheby's event, and
Mhm.
I managed Meek 12 years ago, 13 years ago. You know what I'm saying? He was just coming up
Just
out of
getting up.
Philly. And I just like, and we talk every now and then, but there was something about that night that I was talking to him. I was like, catching up with him on life more. And all of a sudden, when I walked away, I'm like, that is amazing, man. That's because that's like, I worked with this guy 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I know for a fact neither one of us would have thought that that's where we were going to be at those points in our life. And I kind of just valued that moment. Similar with my call with J. Cole the other day. Like, I only worked with J. Cole throughout that one album, but I've been friends with him throughout. And with Cole, like he could go off the grid for a little bit, so I won't speak to him for a while. When I got off the phone the other day, I was like, that's really my man. Like, that's incredible that work experience in my life really has manifested in this relationship where when his wife was in the background on the phone, she was so excited to hear from me. I was excited to hear from her. And it was really a beautiful thing to think about how like is as frustrating and grimy as this business can be. And it actually really can be. It really can be, because there's some people that I have also realized now are really up, like really are bad people. Honestly, like people that think they have to be shady and shisty and cutthroat and greedy in this business. I am not like that. So I'm okay now knowing that there are people like that. I'm not like that. And when I have a true, honest relationship in this business with somebody that's talented and good, I'm going to really value that. And that's kind of the way I've looked at those times now. Now, the ones that I feel slighted by and the people that I do know are up that I've had to encounter in my career, I've decided not to be mad anymore at anybody. I've decided
that's dope.
that honestly, those people are really just that those people are not good. Like those people are not right. And I'm okay with that just being what that is. You know what I'm saying? So
dude, I love what you just said, man. I call it the mirror, bro. I call it the mirror. Your energy and your action, and we deal with it in sports all the time with you give a take and they want to kill your family or they want to die. That's the mirror, dog. That ain't got nothing to do with you. I tell my colleagues all the time. And Rich, I've been, I was raised, man, by a lot of old souls, aunts, uncles. So even in the generation where we have social media and everybody want to run to it to see what people are saying about you, I just was raised not to care about that because people talk all the time. So I wasn't. I was raised in an environment where if you can't take a joke when somebody joking on you, or if you can't really like the people around you are the value system, not this new era of us thinking that the world needs to approve before we determine if we like ourselves or not. Let's talk a little football, man. All right, my Cowboys are not doing well.
My Giants are not doing well.
I was just about to say, your Giants are not doing well. What got to change for y'all, man? What needs to happen? If you were the GM for the Giants, what would you do?
All right. Well, if I was a GM for the Giants, I'm very big on continuity. I'm like over how quickly franchises and organizations want to shake it up. If you look at the Denver Nuggets, for instance, or you look at the Detroit Lions right now, to take one from the NBA and one from the NFL, continuity does win if you've got talent. I was really impressed by our offensive line. I think our front seven is great. I think we have some great young secondary guys, so I think we'll grow into that. Our running back, Tracy, the other day was really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Coach Dable. I like Danny Jones. I really, really like Danny Jones. I think Danny Jones is talented. I think Danny Jones has true leadership qualities. I think ultimately what goes down with a quarterback, though, is the equivalent of a CEO of a franchise. No matter how much I like him, we have to win. No matter how much you may like a CEO of a team, you have to succeed. You have to beat revenue. You have to make sure that the company is successful. So when I look at the Giants right now, I would like us to keep continuity at coach and front office. I love the trade we made for Brian Burns. I really like our defense. We can keep adding to that. Our secondary is going to get older. Malik Neighbors is just
LSU, bro. Just say LSU.
Absolute super duper star.
Yeah, he gonna be crazy.
So my thing with Danny Jones is like, I want continuity. I don't want anyone to go anywhere, but I want to win. Like, I actually want to win. We need to win. So, I think we've got to make a decision at the end of the season. If we're not winning, Do we need a new CEO?
New CEO.
Because
Yep.
the rest of the team right now, I think we're starting to put the pieces in place. And I do not want Dable going anywhere, man. We got to lock in with him.
No, I like Dable. I like Dable a lot. I've been knowing Brian since he was at Alabama, man. So and he got the goods. He got the goods to do it at a very high level. Um, I hear you. I hear you about Danny. Here's what I've always thought about Daniel Jones, and you're gonna be able to relate to this. You I want to see DJ and not his. I don't want to see any fake like personality trait, but I feel like playing in this league and watching the dudes that are really good at it, you got to have a little asshole in you. And I don't know if he has enough, Rich. Like I
Yeah.
just sometimes I feel like he can go get 3 yards, and it's like I just want to stay within the confines of what I've been asked to do. Or he throws a really good pass and the receiver drops it, or somebody runs the wrong route. Instead of going have that conversation, he'll rather just like, some of that stuff got to come out. I think some of that stuff actually holds him back. Um,
Yeah. I
just from
agree
my
with you.
prism.
I agree
So
with you because
go ahead.
if I was him, I'd be playing right now like I don't give a shit. Because here's the reality. If if we don't
Yes,
win, if we don't win, you probably will not be back. But you will get a shot in this league again
absolutely.
because you have talent, real talent. So if you want to be here and we're 2-4, I'm coming out from now on like I don't give a shit. And I'm playing my game. I'm running people over. He's too big and strong to have to slide, to be honest, right now. Because
Yeah,
sometimes I see when he lowers his shoulder, he's knocking linebackers down, he's knocking
absolutely.
secondary guys down. And when he's throwing the deep ball, it looks like he's hesitating a little bit. Just
Yep,
go, just go,
yep,
because he's got an arm. He's got an
yep.
arm. And I
He
agree
need
with you, man.
he needs some of that. He needs some of that Baker Mayfield, man. I call Baker Mayfield mixtape Bake. When Baker's trying to be corporate and he trying to do an album that's just commercial, he
Radio
sucks.
records.
When
Yeah.
he in the damn basement with his beat guy and his own
I
engineer, Bake be cooking,
love
man.
that.
That's what he doing in Tampa right now. So
For
you a
real.
Knicks fan, right? And Brunson, but you get Cat over in the trade. How you feeling about it? Because I know you lost DiVincenzo and you lost Julius Randle, but you get Cat. You like the move. You like where the Knicks are. I think the Knicks gonna have a chance to be in that Eastern Conference Finals, bro.
Yeah, I love where the Knicks are. I mean, I think we've all forgotten how it had been, and to see how quickly the culture has changed. Leon and Wes and
Where's yep,
everybody in the front office, Tibbs has done an impeccable job. I love Julius Randle. I know that may not be the popular opinion in New York. I'm a big Julius Randle fan,
yep,
and I actually think that Ant's going to love playing with him, and that Minnesota really got a good end of the deal as well. We clearly got a star in Cat, and we have a real roster. Like we have a real roster right now.
yes.
I think Deuce McBride has to step up a bit into Dante's role.
Mhm.
We've got some good depth at point guard with Campaign, and I love Tyler Kolek if he's going to get some time. Precious has to step up.
Yep.
You don't know what's going to happen with Mitch in terms of our big man depth, but every team has some of those questions. If you look at what we do have, though, we're stacked now. So I think we have as good a chance as anybody to come out of the East, and to think about saying that confidently about the Knicks is incredible.
It is, man.
But
It
I but
is.
I was there. I was bittersweet a little bit. Like I love Dante, but he was only here for a year. I really like Julius Randle. I think
Yeah.
at some point in Julius's career, he will start to get appreciated for what he is able to do, and not so much what he can't do. There's some
Right.
players that somehow will always have their reputation for what they can't do. My favorite athlete growing up was Mark Jackson.
Yep.
All people talked about was how slow he was and how he couldn't play defense. And they missed the fact that he played 18 years, was fifth all time in assists, and was an incredible leader. And, if anything, if he was playing in today's day, he would have been appreciated more because he would have shot the ball. Back then,
Yeah.
coaches told him he was just a pass first point guard, so he didn't shoot. So his stats didn't really tell the story of how good he was. But Julius Randle is a really good basketball player.
No, he impacts winning, man. Like I tell my son all the time, like, yeah, I know you want to be like the KDs and the Bronze of the world and the Giannis, the superstars, but if you find a way to impact games, then you can play for a long
Yeah.
time. The rarities are guys like your partner, KD. Those are rare. Those are rare guys. I think sometimes, man, too, we get so enamored because we got like now we got them on our devices. We could see them all the time. It's like what you referenced earlier. You don't understand the work that this dude has put in to be considered one of the greatest basketball players that ever touch a basketball in the history of the world. Like people can't really, they can't comprehend that type of work unless you see it up front. Sports, for me, Rich, is uh it's a microcosm of life. And that's why when my wife and I had our three kids, it was a must that they play. It wasn't a must that they be good, but it was a must that they play. I think it teaches you a lot of things, man. One more importantly, it makes you a part of a team. The other thing about sports that I love is it's one of those things like music and food, right? For 3 hours, for 2 hours, differences aside, we all cheering for somebody else. And I know the world ain't kumbaya like that. And I know sometimes once you step out of those arenas or those stadiums, you go back into the harsh reality of certain things in our country that go on, certain things that go on in our own neighborhoods and areas around us. Um, the impact that you making with media and film and being in the sports arena, what's some of the work that you want to do to impact and change either your area around you or some places where KD wants to change? What are you guys doing? What's the mindset behind kind of creating these opportunities that you and KD have been able to have? And I'm not saying put people on, but I'm saying create the vision for some of these opportunities.
Yeah, well, it's like threefold. There's me being a part and helping Kevin and his family bring to life their vision in Prince George's County, and we have a standalone building called the Durant Center there that houses Kevin's foundation as well as this college track program. We have a Team Durant AU organization with 22 teams, and Kevin's built over 35 courts and parks around the world. The Durant Center and the Durant Family Foundation is all about serving underserved communities through education, athletics, arts, and other resources that we can help provide to these kids. And Wanda, Kevin's mother, being involved in the organization has now allowed us to start as young as like 5, 6, and 7. And we
Wow.
partnered with Lorene Jobs and her college track program so we could then be in these kids' lives all the way through college. I've been on the board of New Heights, which is in New York City, based in Brooklyn, a very similar organization through academics and athletics. Um, but I think that if there's something that's still in the back of my mind that I have dabbled in supporting for years is the homeless situation in New York. Growing up in New York City, it had this profound effect on me because my uncle was homeless, so it was always like, well, I
Mm.
don't understand. My mom and my dad seem to be eating well. Like, why is my uncle homeless? I couldn't really wrap my head around that. And then when I went to meet him for the one and only time, it was like textbook, like trench coat, Bible in his hand, beard down to here. So then I paid attention to the homeless people in all of like my neighborhood in New York. And in the 90s, they were amazing. They were like the greatest characters in New York City. Nobody was like, it wasn't dangerous. We had
Yeah.
this guy we called Glass Man who used to break a Heineken bottle, chew glass, and then sing, I work hard for my money and swallow the glass. And everybody in the neighborhood called this guy Glass Man. And we all took care of him. It was
Yeah.
like, if you didn't see Glass Man, you wanted to know where he was at. As I started to get older, I started to really think about like, damn, Glass Man ain't got Glass Man is chewing glass for us to give this man money. And I just was filled with like pain
Yeah.
around seeing these people on the street. Now, there's reasons why people are homeless, all different reasons. But
Hmm.
at the very core of the issue, it is hard for me to wrap my head around someone not having a goddamn roof and that
Yeah.
have to sleep on the ground. So at some point in my life, and my kids and I will always, on Thanksgiving, we're at the coalition and at the homeless shelters up by where we live. But I
Yeah.
think I'd like to make an impact at some point, somehow, some way. And the only real way to do it without being political and getting into the city dynamics is to do it at the real ground level. Where like,
Ground level.
I don't care why you're here, but you need this tonight to get you through, the
Yeah.
evening. And that's something I think that like at some point in my life, I'm going to really lock in with a bit.
Well, bro, when you lock in, let me know, man, because I want to do a lot of work here in Dallas and in Baton Rouge. We could talk about that. I'm the same way, bro. Single parent household, grew up, we moved 13, 14 times when I was growing up. My mom always kept a roof, but we moved. And it was something that some of my friends slept in cars, some of my friends didn't have places to stay at certain times. So that's always been near and dear with the single mother trajectory. Brother, I've kept you a long time, man. I need two things that we do. I need your prediction this year for the Super Bowl. And don't be biased, Rich. Don't the Giants ain't going to the Super Bowl. And the Dallas not either. So let's get them out of there. And then I need NBA finals. Before that, though, KD playing against the Knicks. How you do that? How you period.
That's my
Okay.
guy.
All right. So who's in the NBA finals? Who is in the Super Bowl, Rich? This from Rich.
Super.
Look, Rich, this gonna be everywhere now.
Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
NFC Lions. I got the Lions coming out of the NFC.
I like that.
And somehow, some way, because I want my prediction to be like regarded as right and to be acknowledged by you in February. I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills in the AFC Championship game. I don't even think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC right now.
Yep.
But I still believe the Chiefs are going to somehow find their way, and it's going to be Chiefs Lions. I was watching the Jets Bills the other day, though. I need people to stop hating at all ever on Josh Allen. Like I can't. I'll take Josh Allen any day of the week, every day of the week as my quarterback. And then NBA, I'm going Suns Knicks. And
Knicks.
I'm going Suns Knicks in what will be the most incredible sporting moment of my entire life. With more internal subplots than one could ever imagine.
Hey, man.
And I'll leave it at that.
Hey, man, if that happens in the NBA finals, brother, you are going to be a disaster. No matter what happens, dude. No matter what happens.
That'll
Rich,
be fun, man.
I can't thank you enough, bro. I have wanted to talk to you for a long time, man, and it's exactly what I thought it would be. I gained a lot of knowledge. I feel like I met somebody that I align with and see a lot of viewpoints the same. And man, keep inspiring, bro. Like, I know you're doing great work, and people will talk about the accolades and all of the things that you and yourself and KD and your companies have accomplished. But I think more importantly, man, you're giving a younger generation, you're giving people in your close net inspiration. I know you're inspiring me, man. I ain't gonna be blowing your phone up. I ain't gonna be hitting you up all the time. But when I tap in and I text in, I'm gonna just let you know I see you and you're handling your business. But I wanted to tell you that right now, man. I thank you for coming on the Swagu podcast, bro.
Man, I appreciate you and tap in whenever. I learned a lot too. Your questions were incredible, and I feel like we've known each other a long time,
Yes,
man.
sir.
I appreciate you.